Brilliance Audio.
Flying on the Inside by Rachel Gotto, performed by the author. Throughout my turbulent childhood, the one constant was the BBC World Service shipping forecast. Every evening, just before 6 p.m, my father would turn on the old Grundig radio. And after the 6 pips of the Greenwich time signal, the steady incantation of the 31 sea areas would resound in the kitchen. I knew the names and the order in which they were read by heart. To this day, I can recite them fluently. Strange names that spoke to me of a wider world, one of open oceans and the possibility of perhaps one day getting to know some of these exotic-sounding places. Reassuring in their monotony, their unchanging sequence, they became something for me and my closest brother Dominic to cling to during the many difficult times at the Pier House on the shores of West Cork, which for many years was the family home. The sea was a constant in the life of our family. So many of our activities, work and leisure, were based around her. We swam, we sailed, we made our living in her waters. Fishing, and later, when my parents set up their chandlery business, providing equipment to local fishermen and sailors. We were out of our element in the tiny, beautiful shoreside village of Glandore in every sense of the word. But the sea was our saviour, and in the ocean we all felt some sense of belonging. We were English, we had our own ways of thinking and living, and they were very much at odds with those of everyone else in the locality. In the Ireland of the late 1960s, we were blow-ins, quite literally. In 1965, my father, Eugene Moses Bendon, and my mother Shirley had decided that they would sell up the family home in Leeds, Yorkshire, buy a large old wooden boat and equip it with the fittings of the house, including the coal-fired Aga from the kitchen and the living room furniture. The intention was to sail the entire family to New Zealand on a grand adventure. My mother was 25 years younger than my father, and they already had 3 young children, my brothers Mel, Adrian and Nicky, whose ages at the time were 10, 8 and 3 respectively. Dominic and I were not yet born. My father was not a born sailor. He didn't have much experience of boats and sailing, let alone the knowledge and skills needed to skipper a leaky craft across treacherous transatlantic waters to New Zealand, with no crew other than his equally inexperienced wife and 3 young sons. It was to be an adventure, and sailing experience notwithstanding, they were off. If anyone had expressed any concerns at his abilities, they would have been dismissed immediately. He had no fear. He knew what he was doing, so he said, and my mother trusted him implicitly. But they didn't get very far. My father had, a few years previously, bought a potato farm in West Cork, and the plan was to first visit there to work on that year's harvest and then set sail. In late summer 1967, however, my mother found out that she was pregnant with Dominic, and so their departure from Ireland was delayed. 1 year ran into another, and then I appeared. And thankfully we didn't ever depart for the high seas. When I was born in May 1969, our boat was still moored in Glandore Harbour, and the family mostly lived ashore in the Pier House, which my father had bought some time earlier on one of his jaunts. The only reason Dominic and I weren't born on board Joanna was because when my mother went into labour, the doctor refused to oversee a birth on a boat, so she had us both at the Pier House. When I was 5, Joanna sank at Glandore Pier in a storm. She was never repaired and finished her days rotting on the shore high up the Lepp estuary. And there we stayed, in West Cork, for many decades to come. Those of us who survived still have strong ties to the area to this day.